Shaunie O'Neal has finally broken her silence, and it's nothing like what people expected. After years of saying nothing, she's now calling out Pastor Keion Henderson for allegedly covering up a secret that could shatter their entire marriage. A hidden mistress. Late-night phone calls have church leaders scrambling behind the scenes, trying to manage the fallout. And once you hear who's really involved, you'll realize that Shaunie's latest revelation could change everything. When Shaunie O'Neal married Pastor Keion Henderson, many assumed she had finally found her peace. After enduring years of very public heartbreak, their union was celebrated as the perfect fairy tale ending. Two influential figures of faith joining forces to build a legacy grounded in purpose and love. But behind the smiling Instagram posts and carefully crafted sermons, something was off. Now, whispers have erupted into full-blown headlines, and Shaunie is no longer biting her tongue. She's finally opening up about a secret that's been weighing heavily on her marriage. A secret involving none other than Pastor Keion himself and another woman who was never supposed to be in the picture. Could this so-called power couple in the church be crumbling from the inside? Could the rumors be true? Is there actually a mistress being hidden behind the polished image, the pulpit prayers, and the picture-perfect appearances? In this video, we're unpacking the full timeline, every red flag, every hint, and the jaw-dropping truth Shaunie just exposed. We'll explore what she said, who's entangled in the drama, and what this bombshell can mean for one of the Christian community's most watched couples. You won't believe just how deep this alleged betrayal really goes, so stay locked. And because the truth is messier than anyone was prepared for. From the outside looking in, Shaunie O'Neal and Pastor Keion Henderson appeared to be the definition of a modern-day power couple. A woman of elegance, strength, and success, Shaunie had already cemented her legacy as executive producer of Basketball Wives, changing the way people viewed women in professional sports circles. Meanwhile, Pastor Keion had built a reputation as a charismatic and influential spiritual leader. His passionate sermons, fiery delivery, and expanding digital reach pulled in crowds both online and inside church walls. Their 2022 wedding wasn't just a marriage, it was a major event. A stunning ceremony held at a luxurious resort in Anguilla, filled with celebrities, clergy, and close family. It looked like a love story blessed directly by God. Extravagant, dreamy, and heavily featured across the media. Headlines in both entertainment outlets and religious circles couldn't get enough. People felt inspired, uplifted, and even a little jealous. Finally, a couple that embodied faith, love, and victory in partnership. But here's where things start to unravel. Behind those dreamy wedding pics, edited Instagram reels, and Sunday service clips, something darker was brewing. Cracks began to show, invisible to the public eye, but not to Shaunie. Those closest to her noticed her changing energy, her usual glow dimming. The daily romantic posts all but stopped. Public outings with Keion became noticeably rare. Still, no one wanted to admit anything was wrong. After all, no one wants to imagine drama lurking in a couple that looks so spiritually aligned. And yet, something was clearly happening. Shaunie started sharing cryptic messages on social media, Bible verses about betrayal, inspirational quotes about holding on to faith when people hurt you. There were even eyebrow-raising Instagram stories, some showing her with no wedding ring in sight. The tabloids dismissed it all as mere rumors, but behind the scenes, the real story was slowly unraveling. In faith circles, image is everything. But what happens when protecting your public image means concealing a betrayal too big to be forgiven? What Shaunie didn't initially share with the public was that the rumors had already started making their way to her quiet whispers of late-night calls, overly familiar church members, and a spiritual assistant who always seemed to be present, even when her presence wasn't necessary. Known for her discernment and composure, Shaunie didn't jump to conclusions right away. Still, something within her sensed it was time to start paying closer attention, and that's when she began piecing things together. But this is where the situation takes an even more shocking turn. Because what she uncovered next didn't just rattle her marriage, it shook the core of who she believed her husband truly was. It all started with murmurs, gossip disguised as prayer requests, and hushed conversations within the church. At first, Shaunie brushed it off. Being married to a high-profile pastor means dealing with rumors is part of the territory. But this felt different. These weren't just baseless accusations from anonymous trolls or disgruntled ex-members trying to stir up drama. No, this time, the information was coming from people inside the ministry, people she had trusted. And one woman in particular kept being mentioned, an attractive, sharply dressed woman in her 30s, frequently seen hanging around after church and always present at exclusive private events. Her name is still being tightly withheld due to legal concerns, but insiders at Lighthouse Church claim she was far more than just another staff member. She was reportedly too present, too close, too involved. Shaunie's suspicions grew when she began noticing subtle shifts in Keion's behavior. Late-night meetings that had no explanation, trips not listed on his original schedule, and a colder, more distant tone in his voice. There were moments where he felt emotionally unreachable, even during prayer. The spiritual bond that once connected them began to feel strained, as if someone or something was silently wedging itself between them. And then the anonymous DM arrived. A message sent to Shaunie's private Instagram inbox from an untraceable burner account. "Sis, I'm telling you, this woman is not who she pretends to be. She's been seen leaving his office late at night, even after Wednesday night Bible study. Be careful who you're trusting." Shaunie considered deleting it, writing, "It off as another online troll, but curiosity got the better of her." She quietly began her own investigation, cross-referencing dates, events, and combing through photos from church banquets and ministry gatherings. And there she was, in the background of nearly every event, standing much too close to her husband. Always present, always a little too comfortable. This wasn't just paranoia, this was a pattern. According to sources close to Shaunie, she even went so far as to hire a private investigator. Not to trap him, but to confirm whether or not her instincts were telling the truth. What came back in that? PI's initial report reportedly left her completely shaken. There were suspicious phone records, receipts from luxury restaurants, and hotel bookings that didn't line up with Keion's public calendar. Shaunie, trying to protect herself, began documenting everything: screenshots, email threads, travel logs, even sermons where she felt like her husband's words were subtle. Jabs directed at her. The love that once lit up their marriage now felt hidden behind fog and illusions. And still, Shaunie didn't go public. Not yet. Why? Because as a woman of faith and someone who's spent decades in the public eye, she understands that timing is crucial. She took time to weigh her options, sought spiritual guidance, and prayed for clarity. But behind the scenes, a storm was slowly building, and the picture-perfect image of their marriage was starting to crumble piece by piece. Then, just when she thought things couldn't possibly get more painful, someone close to the alleged mistress decided to blow the lid off everything. And the bombshell? It didn't come from TMZ. It wasn't leaked by a messy podcast. It didn't come from a gossip site or a podcast. It came from inside the very walls of Lighthouse Church. From someone who had watched it all unfold silently over the years. A staff member, described by sources as fiercely loyal to Shaunie, finally reached her limit. She was done watching Shaunie smile through the pain. Done seeing members of the congregation whisper behind her back while pretending to praise and worship. Fed up with the deception, she finally spoke up. This woman, a longtime administrative assistant who had access to internal schedules, event planning, and even Keion's travel logistics, had reportedly been keeping her own quiet documentation. And what she uncovered over time was deeply disturbing. A pattern emerged: executive meetings held off-site with only one attendee listed. Oddly timed phone calls scheduled outside normal hours. These calls were missing from official church records, but flagged on her personal calendar system. Then there were the flowers delivered to the church, not for Shaunie, but addressed to a mysterious KS. No one quite knew who KS was until now. In a private, emotional, tear-filled conversation, the staffer came clean to Shaunie. She revealed what had really been going on. The alleged mistress had reportedly been present at nearly every milestone of Keion's public rise: book tours, speaking events, even national television appearances and faith-based panels. She was always nearby, just outside the camera's frame, quietly smiling like a shadow. And there was more. Shaunie was stunned to learn the woman had once been confronted by a young church volunteer about her late-night presence at the church office. Not long after, that same volunteer was reportedly dismissed. Coincidence? Probably not. According to the insider, the alleged mistress wasn't just being protected by Keion, but by a select group in his inner circle who were terrified of upsetting the balance. After all, Keion's image had expanded far beyond his role at the pulpit. He was now a best-selling author, a spiritual influencer, and a global motivational speaker. Bringing this to light could topple an entire brand. Nobody wanted to light the fuse. Nobody except Shaunie. And then came the final straw. According to the same insider, during a recent church leadership retreat, Shaunie was purposefully excluded from the invite list. The reason given? Limited space. But the real reason her presence would have made things uncomfortable. Later, pictures from the retreat began circulating, and in one particular group selfie, guess who was standing? Right beside Keion? That same woman. When Shaunie laid eyes on that image, something inside her shifted. At that point, this wasn't just about infidelity anymore, it was about disrespect. About being pushed out of her own husband's ministry. Shut out of his decisions. Shut out of the truth. That's when it hit her. This wasn't just a betrayal of their vows. It was a betrayal of the spiritual mission they had vowed to walk in together. The staffer who came forward didn't do it to bring the church down. She did it because she knew Shaunie deserved more. Because she saw a woman trying to hold everything together. Alone. People began screen recording in real time. The sermon took off instantly, trending across Black Twitter and in both spiritual and entertainment circles alike. But the real twist? He never actually apologized, not directly, not publicly, not with any clear accountability. Instead, he cloaked his message in theology and layered metaphors, masterclass in deflection disguised as emotional transparency. It was one of those sermons that left half the audience in tears, and the other half deeply confused. Behind the curtain, insiders claimed the sermon had been rehearsed not just through prayer, but with help from media strategists. Allegedly, Keion's PR team advised him against mentioning Shaunie's name. Instead, they told him to speak through the Spirit and allow the message to become his armor. Others say Keion wanted to name her directly, even apologized, but was told it could spark legal consequences. Legal consequences that instantly sent the internet spiraling. Had Shaunie already retained legal counsel? Was a quiet divorce already in the works, one that could involve major financial stakes? Had the alleged infidelity crossed a line that wasn't just emotional, but possibly legal? Because remember, Shaunie and Keion weren't just husband and wife. They were public business partners with joint ventures, including books, ministry projects, and high-paying speaking engagements. A split wouldn't just be personal, it would be expensive. And so, Keion carefully chose words that danced around accountability. He painted himself as a broken but devout man. A modern-day David, flawed, yet still anointed. But not everyone. And the congregation was convinced. One longtime member who requested anonymity told a blogger, "He's still preaching well, but we see through it now. You can't lead God's house if your own is burning." As for Shaunie, she didn't make a public statement about the sermon. But just hours later, she posted a pointed quote on her Instagram story. "Apologies without changed behavior are just manipulation." That quiet jab? It spoke volumes. She had clearly heard the sermon and she wasn't moved. Still, not everyone turned on Keion. Some supporters claimed he was just trying to process his pain publicly, and insisted that even men of God deserve grace. Others fired back, accusing those critics of trying to crucify him while ignoring their own sins. But for the most part, the public found itself caught in the middle, conflicted, disappointed, and looking for something more than poetic monologues. Because while Keion may have spoken from the pulpit, what the people wanted was raw truth. What Shaunie likely needed was repentance, and what they both now had was a digital storm that was spinning way beyond their control. And just when it seemed like the dust might settle, another shockwave hit, this time from a second woman. And unlike the first, she wasn't hiding behind an anonymous profile.